Welcome back to the studio. We'll be doing some deliberation on this, and I have in the studio with me Anthony Cabo, who is former youth youth organizer of the MPP. He'll be joining, and later we'll get onto the phone lines and speak to Dr. Franklin Odro, who is a programs director of research and programs director at CDD, to discuss this. So it's great to have you in our studios tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
How are you, sir?
Very well.
It's been a while. You've not been obvious in the media lately. What's missing?
Well, I think a lot of work needs to be done at the party.
So you are on the grassroots now.
We are trying so much to organize ourselves.
I look so intimidated.
You shouldn't be.
Yeah, well, anyway, so the key issue today is that your party is boycotting tomorrow's. The forum is supposed to start today, but serious business will be discussed tomorrow. Some say that you're shooting yourself in the foot. Why would MPP boycott a forum which is expected to collect ideas to shape the country's economy?
Well, I think that's what everybody's made to believe, that indeed this forum is supposed to, mobilize ideas and develop some sort of consensus. But in fact,
it is not.
It is not the case.
Why?
Government has already decided on what it describes in its medium-term document called homegrown policies, which they have submitted to the IMF. Even as the MPP as at last Friday, we received the letter. The letter didn't include any modalities for the discussion. It didn't include any document that will help experts in the MPP to go into it. But beyond that,
itself, when it was in power, organized an economic
which
dialogue,
they boycotted.
And there were parameters.
Which they boycotted.
It's not new. It's not something that you don't know.
No, but which they boycotted. In 2002, when we organized the National Economic Dialogue, the NDC was settling.
So NDC boycott, now MPP boycott.
But the question
is, where are we going with that?
That is not the issue. The MPP's National Economic Dialogue in 2002 came as a result of the mismanagement of the economy which we had taken over in 2000. And so there was a need for KUFOR to bring on board all the right experts to be able to shape the manner in which we could bring down the fiscal deficit, we could bring down inflation, we could bring down exchange rates. And so it was quite important at the time, given the fact that the MPP had been in opposition for 35 years. Coming back into office, there was a need for us to gather ourselves together, get the right policies in place. And indeed, if you look at the first 4 years of KUFOR's administration, the economic fundamentals, the economic indicators which we worked so tirelessly. You recall also that we went into the HIPIC program, which helped us to get some physical space in order for debt relief, and also for which reason we had a lot of money to invest in social intervention programs. The NDC in 2009, don't forget, this is not the first time we are back to the IMF. The NDC went back to the IMF under Professor Mills, where they were able to solicit some $300 million from the IMF, and indeed it came with a lot of conditionalities. At the time, they called those conditionalities trigger actions. Today, they are calling them homegrown policies. And I have a document here with me, which the MPP has been studying quite well since the weekend when we intercepted the document from Washington. It is quite sad that a serious political party like the MPP is being invited for a very important discussion like this. We don't have the base document. We don't have any broad-based parameters to engage in this very important national exercise. But if you read through the document, it is quite clear that this government is looking to use this forum to ensure that very unpopular policies are going to be implemented, and they want the MPP to give credence to that. We certainly don't believe that the kind of analysis that has been made, and as far as Ghana's single spine implementation is concerned, and the concerns that have been raised to the effect that the West African average for public sector workers, which is pegged at 35%, and Ghana's currently stands at 56%, needs to be brought down to that level. It means that we are going to witness massive retrenchment of Ghanaian workers in the public sector. We don't believe that it is going to take entrenchment of workers to bring the fiscal deficit down to its barest minimum.
But Anthony, this document you say that you have intercepted.
Absolutely.
I mean, the basis of which that's not the only reason for which you're boycotting. You're boycotting on other reasons, on reasons that the communication didn't reach you early, that you have not been given terms of reference for the discussion, and this World Bank document you're citing. But are they not pedestrian?
No, I don't think so. If you're going into a discussion, people are calling you to develop broad-based consensus. They need to be very open, they need to be very faithful. We need to also see what admissions government is making as far as the economy is concerned. You keep hearing government spokesperson talking about the fact that the economy is not in crisis. The president himself made reference to the fact that the economy is bouncing back. So at the end of the day, the question that we are asking is, what are we going to discuss? What is the consensus? I know that political parties run for elections. They present a document, and that document is the economic program and manifesto for that matter. People are voted into power. What else could be, or what could be the biggest consensus? Look, 400 people meeting in Akosombo to determine when 10 million Ghanaians voted for a particular party's manifesto to be implemented. I believe that the NDC has
But do you know this is a huge political decision you're making, that if you are unable to explain to your followers, you might lose following?
No.
Because people want to see you bring your solution across board so that you can suggest things which will make meaning and contribute to the economic well-being.
Let me give you an example.
And then you're not going.
Let me give you an example. You'll recall that the MPP organized Fred Nanani Memorial Lecture where we talked about the state of the economy. Dr. Baumia, in the second Aliu Mahama lecture, talked about fiscal discipline. Quite important that the current crisis that we find ourselves in, a balloon deficit in 2012 of about 8.7 billion, was as a result of fiscal indiscipline on the part of government. We proffered solutions. We asked that a Fiscal Responsibility Act be promulgated. What did the finance minister say? What did government actors say? They rubbished Baumia's suggestions. When Baumia talked about exchange rate depreciation and its relationship with inflation and the fact that it has its own correlation with employment, what did the government say? They came out. They told us that Baumia didn't have the capacity to advise government, and Baumia was a total embarrassment to his parents. You see, when you have people who have preferred very serious ideas for the forward march of our country, I believe that whether in government
so
or
you are
out of
bitter
government,
about that,
we
right?
think that this is just another smoke screen, PR gimmick by the government to hand down very unpopular policies. And the NPP as a political party, having a better vision, having a broader vision for this country, don't think that that is the path we need to go. And also the sincerity, the lack of sincerity on the part of the organizers of this forum. The fact that this base document, which we are all supposed to go and discuss in Akosombo, didn't come. I have a copy of the letter that was sent to the MPP.
You say that it came in a week.
No, we didn't even get it. We don't even have this base document. I intercepted this document from Washington over the weekend because this was a document the NDC submitted to the Washington as a result of the spring meetings they hold with the IMF.
Right, let's get onto the telephone lines now and speak to Dr. Franklin Odro, who is Head of Research and Programs at CDD Ghana. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us on today's Big Story.
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
Thank you. Now, the decision by the MPP to boycott tomorrow's economic forum, they have given reasons. They cite several reasons, including the fact that it does appear government has already made up its mind and kind of put together some policies it refers to as homegrown policies and submitted to the World Bank already. And it also says that the MPP also says that it did not receive the base document upon which the discussions will be centered. Do you think this is good? I mean, looking at the reasons they are giving, the fact that they are boycotting and the fact that they claim that government didn't give them any key document to guide the discussions. Are we going forward or we are going backwards?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, let's put it this way. First of all, the NPP is a political grouping, and they have the right to decide what is good for its members and for the party in general. But I do think that as a strong and powerful party as the NPP, and as a government in waiting, in other words, a potential political party that can also be given the mantle to manage the affairs of this country, this platform would have been a good opportunity to formally put their case to Ghanaians. Again, let me extend that point by saying that we live in a democracy, we are practicing democracy, and the whole essence of democratic governance is the opportunity for everyone, including political parties, civil society groups, individuals, citizens, to input into national decision-making processes. And I think that irrespective of the political gimmick or political partisan speeches that people make, this is a national exercise that I think that every Ghanaian, every stakeholder, every political grouping should be given the opportunity to participate in it. And therefore, in my view, I think the NPP should have participated in that meeting, irrespective of the challenges or the concerns that they have raised.
Let me read a brief line from Professor Kwesi Prempeh, whose view is that the NPP minority should not be boycotting this. But he expressed concerns that the National Economic Forum is indeed unnecessary. It is a waste of time and money. We have a forum that could serve the purpose just fine. He says that forum is Parliament, that the finance and economy related committees in Parliament, which are bipartisan in membership, can hold joint public hearing and invite experts, and those who think they have views and perspectives to offer will offer it before Parliament. So does this not feed into the NPP's argument that perhaps this forum is not necessary at all?
So, I mean, look, in a way, Professor Kwesi Prempeh has a point. In every democratic system, there are processes, institutions, avenues for political parties, individuals to formally make submissions. And as he rightly pointed out, Parliament is one of such platforms. But I think, again, in democracy, we don't necessarily have to use all the formal structures to discuss pertinent national issues. It is true that the minority group in Parliament could use that platform to express its views on what is going on in the country. But it doesn't stop any serious country, any serious democracy to also create other forms of platforms to engage in the wider stakeholders. As you know, this particular dialogue, as I understand it, involves more than political party groupings, more than government officials. It brings civil society actors, non-partisan groups, and a cross-section of Ghanaians to debate and discuss. As to whether the timing is right and the issues being going to discuss will inform national debate in the future, it's a matter of time for us to see whether this exercise will be will sort of be value for money or not.
Right.
But I don't think that aside Parliament or other formal institutions, we cannot create other platforms to discuss pertinent national issues.
So let me hear directly from you. You think this National Economic Forum is critical, it is important?
Well, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that any platform that is given to Ghanaians to discuss what we all agree or seem to be a problem, a recurrent problem that we need to find a national solution to, that is a good thing.
Right.
Right. So in that sense, and if you all agree we are sincere, both the ruling government, the opposition parties, individuals, if you all agree that we are in a crisis, our economy is not doing well, and we need to find a path that will bring the kind of needed economic boost and growth to Ghanaians. And we think that the dialogue is a platform for us to discuss.
Right.
I think it's a good thing.
Right.
What matters is what do we do with the outcomes of that platform.
Right. Dr. Odro, we'll have you hold briefly, and then I'll solicit reactions from the studio here. Anthony Carbo represents the NPP, is with us, and then we'll come back to you, and then we'll wrap. So you heard Dr. Odro's comments.
I think he made some very important points, which, of course, in every ideal situation, if there was good faith on the side of the government, they would have opened up this matter, they would have asked for broader consultation and better deliberation, and also make sure that all participants get the base document so that you have economic experts. And he's right, the NPP is a big political party. We've taken this decision on principle. We have taken this decision after thinking through this particular thing quite carefully, to say that, look, we as a political party have been in the reins of power before. We've managed this economy before. We have moved this economy from a HIPIC economy into a middle income economy, and so we know what it takes to do these things. We don't believe that it is going for this forum where we are going to reach consensus. What are the consensus on? First of all, number one, if you look at the medium-term macroeconomic objectives under this document, chapter paragraph 29, it talks about ensuring fiscal discipline that hinges on prudent public expenditure management. My brother, we all know this. Don't we know that government should not spend beyond its limits? Don't we know that if you take taxes, you must spend within your means? So this discipline we've been talking about, and you know, from 2010, 2011, 2012, we have seen serious dissipation of the national resources. How do you turn around after dissipating all this money and say that political parties and civil society groups, stakeholders should come and help you get the economy back on track? Have you admitted that indeed there was recklessness and in the 2012 elections?
So you want government to admit that?
Indeed, government.
So if government admits these things, are you going to change your mind?
But they are not. The president says the economy is doing well, the fundamentals of the economy are stronger. The Minister of Finance says that there's no need for a fiscal responsibility act to curtail government spending. You know, so you have the government itself coming out to tell you that things are in shape, things are good. So if things are good, why don't you want a political party like the NPP to come so that you can sit down and discuss public sector reforms? We have implemented public sector reforms. All the implementation documents as far as public sector reform was concerned are on the table. Do we need consensus on that? Do we need consensus with particular emphasis on right-sizing the public sector?
You think the National Economic Forum is a waste of your time?
I think completely that.
Clearly. So
I think
it's
that
a waste of your time.
It is a waste of our time. We have given alternative solutions. We have raised critical issues with this government. You recall when the government was going into the XTX, Ghana's borrowing, how much we borrowed, 20 billion, but it's very little to show. We have made this point time without number. This government, certain being a belligerent administration, will not listen. They will not take any advice coming from people. The TUC has raised concerns about the fact that government shouldn't venture into going for this bailout.
What kind of thinking through did you do? Because I know Osafo Mafo has been invited and he totally disagrees with the party position and he's representing. He's not
representing Osafo Mafo. And let me make this quite clear. Mr. Osafo Mafo is not representing the MPP at this forum. Mr. Osafo is representing himself.
But he was the former finance minister.
But don't forget,
so if he was the finance minister under the MPP government, he surely couldn't be representing himself.
But I'm telling you that the party met, the party is taking a decision, a statement has been issued, all members of the party must cede to this decision that has been taken. If any other person in the party feels that they have concerns and they want to go, why not? You can go. And I'm saying that Mr. Osafo Mafo, in his own right, is an economist.
Could you ever change your mind? Could
well,
it be possible if anything will make you change your mind?
Well, a lot will make us change our mind if the government comes back to tell us that, look, indeed, after all the suggestions you have made and after the insults that were heaped on you.
Comes back within 4 days?
Well, I'm saying, if government is able to say that to us, that indeed, because when Bawumia gave his maiden lecture at the Ferdinand Enyi Memorial Lectures, he raised the issue of the fact that the statistical calculation of inflation was in doubt. What did he hear from government? They came up to insult. When all the grading institutes across the world, Fitch downgraded Ghana, when Standard & Poor's downgraded Ghana, when Barclays Bank presented a gloomy economic picture consistent with what Bawumia and the MPP have been saying. But
how would you know if government would make an admission tomorrow?
If government makes this...
When you are not there.
No, if government makes this admission, I don't think that it was even fair or it was of good faith for the government to send an opposition party, an important party like the MPP, and like Doctor said, a party in waiting to run the affairs of this country. You send us an invitation to participate in a program. The letter dated 2nd May 2004 arrived at the MPP headquarters on Friday. You expect a party like this to sit over the weekend, come up with ideas. We don't even have the base document. We don't know how this discussion is going to be conducted.
You think that is sabotage?
Well, I think that it is out of bad faith. The government certainly didn't have any good faith in making sure that all of us come together. In any case, what consensus do we need, okay, in as far as job creation is concerned? Do we need consensus on moving this economy into an industrious economy? Do we need consensus to allow government to bring in right investment? Government is selling every viable manufacturing institute. For instance, the Bolga meat factory, which is supposed to be creating a lot of jobs. Look at how SADA was managed. Indeed, if SADA had adopted the Bolga meat factory today, it would have been running, jobs would have been created, people in the region would have gotten jobs, all this rural-urban migration would have stopped. And these are important.
Or possibly it could have been dead. I mean, the whole issue of SADA is complicated.
Absolutely.
So you can't say that it would have been better.
No, I'm saying that if government had invested $15 million they put into the Guinea Power project into reviving the Bolga meat factory, where you still have the relics lying there, and promises were made to revive these factories. We haven't seen nothing. So these are critical concerns. We are not just speaking out of bad faith. We are not speaking out of envy. We are certainly raising these issues.
you're not speaking out of political vendetta.
No, we certainly not.
The NDC boycotted yours when you were in power, so you are boycotting
But we
theirs.
certainly not. We have raised important issues. I've told you about the fact that Dr. Bamian spoke about fiscal indiscipline in our country, and there's a need for us to be disciplined. We've seen the dissipation of the state resources in 2012.
Would you be taking notes and react after the economic forum?
Well, if
they come up with a communique.
No, if some untruths as far as this economic discussion come out as a result of this forum, why? The MPP, for public advocacy purposes, will have to straighten the records and make sure that people understand what we're talking about.
This is today's big story. We'll still have Dr. Franklin Odro on the line. So, Doc, if you've been hearing the back and forth we're having in the studio, it boils down on doing the right thing. Forums and then taking advice from opposition elements. I mean, the MPP has held a couple of set the record straight kind of thing where Dr. Bawumia has made suggestions. They feel that it hasn't been taken on board. The broader picture, how should we be approaching our economic issues? Does it come down to the same issue of winner takes all problem that we have?
I think, you sort of hit the point right there. In this country, we have sort of made any serious political decision to be partisan. We see every, point that comes from political parties, whether MPP or NDC, to be partisan, and that is why we are having this problem. Because if we did have a proper way of discussing issues, a proper way of receiving input from everyone, political parties, we won't be where we are today, where we need to go back to have a dialogue and have a discussion, and where we are all sort of playing a kind of a partisan football with a serious matter as national economy. I think that we have failed as a country to really design a proper policy that takes into account a sustainable viewpoint from all of us. What any serious democracy does is that after elections, we all come back, we all come together, formulate policies, and then we sort of implement, giving to the government of the day. I think that we're still far away from, as a country, we are very far away from achieving that. Indeed, some of the points that my friend Cabo has put out there, if you look at it on the face of it, there's some legitimacy in that. To what extent did we come back finally to agree that let's go and have a national dialogue? When in the previous conversations, the previous narratives that we've had, we seem to agree that everything is fine. I think that it's important for us to be fair and sincere to ourselves. And if we do that, we can have dispassionate, objective analysis and discussion towards achieving a common problem, which is economic advancement, transformation, structural transformation, and the kind of thing that both parties and all other parties are looking forward to pursue for the betterment of this country. We don't have that kind of platform for that discussion. And I think it is important that as a country, we limit the degree of partisanship in issues of economic transformation, issues of national interest. It doesn't seem to me that we have a national interest for many of the issues that we deal with. Many a times it's a short-term policies. There are things that do not take us far. There are things that will take us to win elections, and therefore, because of that, we don't want to sit down with our political opponents to discuss issues because we are always thinking about election. And that is part of the problem we face in this country.
Right. We're very grateful to you, Dr. Franklin Odro, as head of research and programs at CDD. Thanks very much, sir, for joining us on today's big story. So, Anthony, let me finish up with you. You heard him. You want to react?
Well, not to react necessarily to what he said, but just to make the point. You recall in 2009, a very important issue like education came up. There was a national forum on education. The government had planned that they were going to reverse the educational policy to 3 years. Experts were invited. TUC, all the relevant academics were brought on the table.
Their views were not taken on board.
Their views were certainly not taken on board.
So you think that views that will come from this forum will be useless?
And you don't forget also, this government has held a national forum on the single spine pay policy. You recall that in whole, a communique was issued. Certain steps were supposed to have been taken. What have you heard of it?
I haven't heard much.
Good. So that tells you that when we're talking about bad faith, on the part of this government.
And I must say
making.
that we've been trying to get the Mahama Yariga Information Minister, Media Relations Minister Mahama Yariga, to join us on the show. He agreed to speak with us, but unfortunately he's not picking his call. I reckon that he must have been busily held somewhere and unable to contribute to this discussion. There were key issues we would have loved to put to him, but we're afraid we're not getting through to him. So, your skepticism.
So like I was saying, you see, once beaten, twice shy. We went for this National Single Spine Forum in Ho, a lot of communiques. TUC asked the government to unpack the single spine they've been talking about. Let us see where the chunk of the money is going to. Till date, the TUC is still calling for that disintegration of the salary structure, so we understand, because it appears that the political class seem to be eating up the budget as far as single spine is concerned.
You've said quite a lot, which, well, I mean, these are your views and they come from your party's stance.
That's true.
On the matter. But what happens if government, after this forum, brings their recommendations, and the government decides to go ahead with implementation of these recommendations and you disagree?
Well, I think that
what would be the moral standpoint for you to disagree then when we get to that point?
Well, I don't forget that these are medium-term policies, and this is supposed to be from 2014 to 2017. Don't forget that. These are certainly issues that the government cannot carry through. There's going to be an election. A government can come, and after that government comes into power, things may change. Because the kind of economic model that is being run now, the kind of management of our economy that we are seeing, or we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, hasn't been quite impressive. Well, this is not the first time we've been to the IMF. We went to the IMF in 2009. What came out of it? This economic forum we are holding is in fact an indictment of the 4-year administration of the NDC under Professor Mills, and these are the resultant effect of those failed policies that has led us to the current situation we are in. So I don't know why the MPP is going to be invited to have dinner with these people.
Right, thank you very much. Anthony Cabo is former youth organizer of the MPP, and I reckon that he's currently the communications team member of the MPP. My name is Stephen Enti, and we're also grateful to Dr. Franklin Odro, who joined us on telephone. Unfortunately, we were unable to get a government rep to speak to the issue. My name is Stephen Enti, and this is where we bring it down.